What's up, guys? Hey, how we doing? So today's video is pretty heavy. This is one of the more serious podcasts I've done, and it has to do with some greed that literally changed lives, lots of them. And I know there's a lot of you guys out there who have been affected by the exact same thing as Brad Allison. The first generation of Leatt braces, while the ideas seemed to work, the way they came down on the spine caused so many injuries. And Brad's, I happened to witness, I was at the track when this happened, and it really hit me, and I've been trying to figure out a way to kind of explain this and tell people what happened and how it happened and the timeline, and show just how awful the people that ran Leatt brace were during this time. It's probably the most disgusting thing I've seen in this sport, and I've seen a lot of bad stuff. Brad Allison was an up-and-coming rider out of Las Vegas. He dedicated his life to becoming a professional, and he was on the verge of turning pro, and he was fast. Dang, he was fast. He had everything it took. He had the skill, he had the desire, he had all the things, and Brad suffered a horrific injury just as he was turning professional. So what happened was he was using the first generation. If you remember those, they went right down on the spine. The pressure from the brace pushed on his back, right on his spine, and it caused paralysis from the chest down, and he's still in a wheelchair. When the Leatt brace first hit the market, we all thought it was a great idea. That's probably the number one fear that every dirt bike racer has, is paralysis. I think we fear that more than death. And there'd been a lot of stories about this brace and stuff like this happening, but when I saw this happen firsthand, it tore me up. I didn't know what to do, how to stop it, or what I could do at the time. I did not have a platform like I have now. So I was on a forum and I was talking about what happened, and I received an email from Leatt directly threatening slander for sharing my view of what happened and telling me that it was complete garbage and threatening me. And I can't imagine how many other people received threatening emails and letters like I did for just talking about what actually happened. We're not making stuff up. I saw this firsthand. Brad's going to tell you in this interview how that happened. And his doctors, and they had a lawsuit against Leatt. And to tell you how deep this runs, off camera, we were talking, and it's very, very suspicious how his lawyer dropped him right when this was about to wrap up. I'm not saying this happened because I have no proof of it, but it sure sounds a lot like some money slid under the table to his lawyer to make this go away. It doesn't seem like something they should have walked away from. It's very, very suspect, and it's disgusting. And the fact that Leatt was able to continue to push these braces knowing that they had a problem makes me think they're capable of anything. And while it was a somewhat known fact in the industry that these braces could potentially be dangerous, Leatt, with warehouses of them, were still selling them, knowing what had happened to riders like Brad and others. And to let you know, they knew there was a problem because the newer generations come down around the outside of the spine. They had already released the street version that went around and didn't put pressure directly on the spine, and it was more breakaway. The problem is they had so many warehouses full of this original generation that they just kept selling them. Then about 2 years after Brad's accident, a professional quad racer in the area, Josh Fredrickson, was injured in a similar way. And they've also said that is due to this flaw in that brace. And I have to say alleged, you can't directly prove it. But if you listen to Brad, you tell me what you think. So of all the dirty things I've seen companies do and seen around this sport, this holds probably the highest regard. A company that knows their product potentially can cause life-changing injuries to kids, to people chasing the dream, thinking that they're actually protecting themselves from this exact injury. It's despicable. I feel bad that Brad was a victim of this, and also the industry kind of turned their back on him. At this point, Road to Recovery did not help him at all, so he's going through all this with no help of Road to Recovery because they said he was not a professional yet. Now, I think that's a great organization and they help a lot of people, but I was really disappointed to hear how they treated Brad throughout this situation, and I wish there would have been something else that somebody could have done to help them. But don't shed a tear for Brad. Brad is making the best of this situation, and he is a true story of resilience. He has got a beautiful family, beautiful wife, beautiful daughter. He's got a thriving pool business here in Las Vegas, Poseidon Pool. By the way, if you want to reach out to them, he will get your pool looking sparkling clean, because like everything in life, Brad attacks it full force. He goes at it. He is a survivor and somebody who has every characteristic to be a champion. And while he's not a motocross champion, He is a champion at life. Special thank you to all the members who have joined. You guys are helping me bring these stories that nobody else wants to talk about. Things that companies do. And this company right now, Leatt, is thriving in the motocross industry, making lots of money off riders, the same riders that they neglected and did not care about, when they had this flaw, but they needed to continue to sell through those Leatt braces. So thank you guys for joining. You're helping a ton. And also my sponsors, Complete Racing Solutions. You guys know Coach Rob. He is a complete badass. And I'm working on a project with Coach Rob to give a helmet away, a 6D helmet, to a member. Epic Garage Designs. You guys know Travis Ogburn, the garage genius. He has helped me a lot. Great guy, great products, and he'll make your garage or pit look amazing. Ride Strapped, the patriotic goggles, the t-shirts, just a really good company with a good heart, and I appreciate those guys. Precision Transport, a trucking company with customer service, and that's rare. And these are good people who love the sport. They contribute to this sport. Don't do business with them because of that. Do business with them because they give you the best customer service and the best pricing. So without further ado, let's get into this. Meet Brad Allison, who probably would have been a champion if it wasn't for Leatt brace.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
So without further ado, let's meet Brad Allison, who is a champion in life and probably would have been a champion in motocross if it wasn't for greed and people completely overlooking a dangerous product. Without people turning a blind eye to a potentially dangerous flaw in a product, all for money. All right, guys. So Brad Allison, how you doing, my brother?
Good, man.
So the first time I saw you was out at Boulder Motocross. You were hauling ass. I remember asking somebody, who's that guy? And you weren't answer. I was working for, I think, Tucker Power Sports and something. How is there a guy that fast that we sponsor that I don't know about? You lived here and then you went to train at Millsaps?
Yeah, so I was here till about 2008. And then my dad decided to send me out to Millsaps, and we went out there for 2 years. It was a good move. Colleen helped us out a ton. It was a good idea. It helped out a lot, and we did a lot of nationals when we went out there.
How long did you grow up here?
In California until I was about 5 years old, and then my parents moved out here, and I was here ever since.
Now, what prompted you to go to live at one of these training facilities?
I just kind of rode a little bit when I was younger, and I liked it. And then I started to get faster, and I started beating my dad. And then he was like, hey, let's get serious about it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That was probably about middle school, 8th grade maybe, and we started training, and then we wanted to get better, and we went out there.
So did the whole family move? Did you move? How did that work?
No, so I went out there on my own. My parents, my mom, dad, my aunt, sister, brother, we all drove out there. I borrowed my uncle's trailer. They dropped me off there, and I was living there for 2 years on my own when I was 15 years old.
So I guess the thing is it blows me away, and I see a lot of kids do it, and it's the way to get better these days. But I mean, what goes into that decision? Like, did somebody tell you this is what you need to do? How did you guys get the idea that that's what you needed to do?
It was basically my dad and myself. Honestly, we just knew we needed more seat time and more experts on helping us out, and we knew Colleen was very good, and actually little Brian, all the guys out there, they were great, and they definitely helped me improve and do very well.
Oh yeah, your skills were top notch, man.
I don't think I definitely could have done it just living in Vegas and riding these local tracks. I mean, they're tracks, they're good. It's just the national caliber tracks back there, it helps out a ton.
Yes, and it is very hard. We have one track, and then we have one track that opens and closes. It's not exactly what you call a motocross mecca here in Las Vegas. So yeah, if you want to make it, you kind of have to travel. So now, did your dad race? Because usually when you see somebody take the course that you've taken, there's a parent that's involved that had a pretty successful riding career. Did your dad do anything?
He just rode. He did not race, and he wasn't competitive at all. He just rode dirt bikes.
Did he follow the sport a lot?
Followed the sport, went to supercrosses, motocrosses and stuff, and he was just following it that way, and he liked what he was doing, but he never went out there and raced and did what I did.
Okay, so now you're 15. You go to Millsaps. Tell me about the training facility. Is it a good environment for a kid to grow up in? Like, do they discipline you? Do they parent you? Or are you just like a wild child on your own? How does that go?
It's great. I mean, yes, there's some wild childs out there, children, whatever. They don't parent you out there. I mean, you go there to train. And a lot of the kids had mechanics that lived with them. They had their parents that lived with them. Unfortunately, I had myself, and that was it, because my dad couldn't afford to pay for a mechanic to go out with me. and he had to work to pay for what I was doing. My mom, she stayed at home with my brother. He's actually handicapped with cerebral palsy, so she couldn't come out there and live with me because she had to stay here. And there was some wild kids, some not, and it was just a place that we went. It was awesome. There was a gym on site. There was a track. The trainers, they had people with nutrition there helping us out. It was a good deal.
What about school?
When I was a sophomore, I decided, hey, I'm going to do homeschool. They have a lot of people doing homeschool out there too. What I did was I signed up for Connections Academy. I actually had my grandma help me with school while I was out there. And she did some schooling and some of my classes so I can train and focus on racing. And every time there was a test, I would fly back to Vegas and take my test and pass them and fly back to Georgia and keep training.
Now, when you're out there, now you said you raced some amateur races. How was it going? Were you seeing the types of improvement and sponsorship you were looking for by going out there?
Yeah, definitely. So when I got out there, I went out with some decent bikes. I mean, I had stock suspension. I got there, first thing Colin was like, hey, you can't ride with that. I'm like, what do you mean? And I was like, I like it. And she's like, no, you need to get this done. So she ended up sending it out to Factory Connection and helping me get it all done. And it made a huge difference. Oh, yeah. It saved a lot of time everywhere. Started racing the nationals after training with them and ended up with 9 national titles. First one was at Lake Whitney. Then I got a couple at Oak Hill. Then we got a few at Ponca, Minios. And I ended up with a second at Loretta's, unfortunately, and should have won it, but...
What class was that?
That was the 250C and 450C at the time.
And when you were back here, had you moved back here?
To save money, my dad ended up bringing me back here. We started training here, doing everything, road biking, all that stuff. Going out in the desert and doing some training out there. And there was a local track here, Sandy Valley. They basically sponsored me and helped me out a ton. They took care of me when I went out there, and it was a place where I could go anytime. Same with Mesquite MX. And we just kind of did it here in town, and I ended up getting hurt about a year later.
Yeah, and at that time, we actually had a pretty decent moto community. We had Sandy Valley, we had Mesquite, and we had Boulder City.
Boulder City was a fun track.
That was so fun. And
yeah.
That was probably the strongest the moto community's been there. But that's where I first saw you, and I found out about you, and I was like, dang. Before you get hurt, like, are you riding pro? Are you planning on turning pro? What was the plan?
So I was in the B class. I was planning on going pro in a couple years. Or no, a couple months when I got hurt. It was a couple months after that I was supposed to go pro. And then work on getting the card and going nationals and supercross and all that. But I ended up going over the bars and breaking my back.
I was there when this happened, and this is one of the most traumatic incidents I've had or seen at a track. So I'm over there talking to Kit Stokes, who sponsored you, the local track, and we're just shooting the crap, and over the radio we hear, rider down, he can't feel his legs, send the medics immediately. My heart hits the floor. I'm like, oh God. And I knew you were out there, but I just assumed it wasn't you because your technique was flawless. And that's one thing that I like about watching you. I wanted to ride with you that day, and I was like, oh no. And then when I saw it was you, and then I heard what happened, but I'm going to let you take me through that day.
Yeah, so it was actually the day before going to World Minis. I went out. I was just going out to get a little more seat time and test out the race bike and make sure everything was good. I went out by myself. I mean, I had friends. Yeah, everyone was there. We all know each other. And I ended up going out on the track, doing a few laps, and came around a corner, hit a tabletop. I had scrubbed it, stayed nice and low. My hand came off the bars just a little bit. When I brought my hand back, my finger tapped my front brake, so it sent the front end down. And when that happened, I went over the bars. And there was another table right after it. And I kind of landed right at the face of that one, right at the bottom. And when I fell, I felt when my head pushed on my brace, the Leatt pushed right into my spine. And I felt the pressure, and then after that, I didn't feel anything, and I didn't know. All I could tell was my shoulder. It was hurting a ton, and it was dislocated, so I had a heart rate monitor on every time I rode. I was like, oh, you want to see what my heart rate is right now real quick? I was trying to get to the bike, and I was moving my left arm, and I thought my legs were moving. It was weird. I looked down, and they weren't moving, so I was like, something's wrong. And instantly someone came over. They're like, hey, stop moving, just stay still. And they made a call to my parents, and Flight came and took me out of there. As you're there.
Yeah. And this was what year again?
This was in 2011. April
2011. So I think it was like 2009 when the Leatt brace finally hit the market. And that's what actually ended up doing the damage to your spine. The original Leatt braces went right down the center of your spine. I remember I had one of the original braces. I thought it was a great idea. I saw that video. Do you remember the video David Bailey did telling people you should probably wear this if it's available. It would have saved me. I saw that and I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I'm all for safety and making this. You'll never make this sport pussified, as people say.
Yeah.
They always get mad. I'm like, but I try to eliminate stupid stuff. And if you have a neck brace that could work, it seemed like a good idea. It wasn't. The way that that design went down on your spine, I crashed one time, and I remember I was more fortunate, but I remember I chucked it after that because I was like, I don't like it. It stuck me like a dart. And now, if I remember correctly, the track was ripped right where you hit, and it kind of caught in that dirt, right?
Yeah, and I still got the brace and my helmet and all that. It's at the house. It's got the dirt, right? Everything's still there. For it to happen because of something that's supposed to protect you, sucks.
Well, and for those that don't know, Leatt threatened to sue me. After I saw this, I was pretty torn up, man. I'm like, holy crap, it's shocking to see that happen. And I saw why it happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, Kit and I were talking, and there was a chat group about Leatt and how you need to do this for your riders. And I went in the comments, I think it was maybe on Vital, of course, idiots. But this just paralyzed a guy, and they called it slander. I'm like, it's not slander. I just saw this happen. And they're like, well, that can't be why. It's not physically possible that that happened. And I'm like, yes, it did. And at the time, they were just starting to make the braces to go around the spine. The problem was they had a huge inventory of the ones that went straight down your spine. And they had to get rid of those before they could go to that new version. And it would have cost them quite a bit of money. And rather than admit that there was a problem, they continued to pump those out, and I was just disgusted. I didn't have the platform that I have now, or I would have really roasted them.
Yeah.
But I was just disgusted. And then the fact that they threatened to sue me multiple times.
That's crazy.
Emails. And I'm like, okay, sue me. I'm like, please sue me. You know, we'll go talk about this in court, and we'll find out exactly what happened. But of course they didn't, because it was truth. But how did it go from there with you?
The surgery, everything, I fused T1 through 6, ended up going to therapy and all that. And while I was in therapy, I was thinking, you know, why don't I see if Leatt will help me with this? And I hired an attorney to see if they will help me with my medical bills or anything. They would not do anything. They wouldn't reach back out. And then it eventually went to where my attorney's like, hey, you know, I'm just going to sue him for whatever we can. And we went almost 5 years. And it was a few days before, and he's like, you know, we got to back out of the case, blah, blah, blah. We don't have an expert. Your expert backed out. And I found out there's been several injuries from the Leatt when my guy was going through everything and seeing who's done what, and there's been a ton of lawsuits against them and this and that, and it just sucks because they go out there, they make all this money making this brace to try to protect you, and they don't care about you. They just want your money.
No, and that was what was so disgusting to me. And like I said, I don't get mad at a lot of people in the sport, but when there are scumbags that do really bad things, I think it's really bad to sell this false hope. Because we're wearing the brace because we think it's going to prevent exactly what happened to you. Meanwhile, it caused it. Now, they should have at least helped you with medical. And they should have immediately pulled those braces. Instead, they sold through, I can't remember the number, but it was an astronomical number of those braces that caused the problem after your injury. And I heard of multiple other ones.
Yeah.
But yours was the only one that I firsthand, like, oh my gosh, I was there, and it was gnarly. But I just... Have you ever thought of following back up on it?
No, I kind of dropped it, and you know, I'm not really in the motocross industry anymore. I follow it and watch. I got a bunch of friends that still race, a lot of pros, and I follow that. But I just kind of said, you know, forget it. I'm just gonna live my life and do what I can. And I ended up starting a business. I met my wife now. She's my wife. I met her after I got hurt. We've had a kid, a beautiful girl, and she's 4 years old right now, and I just kind of figured I'd live a normal life instead of the motocross life.
And that's hard. And that's the thing that I've seen. Unfortunately, this happens too often in our sport. But I've seen it wreck people, and I've seen people take it and go, you know what? This is my new life, and do really well. Like, you're doing great, man. Your business is killing it. Yeah, you got a family. Like, I mean, you took what happened and just moved on. And some people can't. What advice would you have for somebody who just got hurt?
Just stay positive, honestly. And I mean, life's not over. You can live life in a wheelchair, or you can live life racing motocross. I mean, you just got to find other ways to do it. And I mean, it sucks, but you just got to figure it out and just keep on going. Keep doing what you can.
So how did that transition from that? So it's hard enough as motocrossers, and I'm sure a ton of people would testify that when you're done racing, even if you didn't make it to a high level, there's this sense of like this hole that's left that we all try and fill with other things in our lives. I can only imagine that was worse because one, it happened right when you were about to turn pro, and then So what in particular did you do?
Really haven't found that. I mean, I just keep living with what I got, and I mean, I have a kid now, and I work every day, all day, and I run a pool business, beside pool service, and I don't know, man. I live the life that everyone else lives now. Just work, eat, sleep, pay bills. I mean, I come home, I try to hang out with my kid a bunch before I go to bed, and go back out to work the next day.
Dude, and I will tell you this, as someone who has kids, that's the biggest joy in your entire life that I think you could ever have. You don't understand until you have your kid and you're like, holy crap, I just made that person. This person's whole existence is because of me.
Yep.
I owe them to get them up to where they're an adult. And I'll be honest, I love the way that you've transitioned some of the life skills you learned racing dirt bikes, because you learned discipline, you learned to go after it, and it's made you successful in the pool business.
Yes, it helps out a ton. And I talked to my dad about it and my friends. It's crazy because you use everything you learned racing and growing up and being at the track in life, and it helps out a ton, man. If I didn't do what I did when I was younger, I probably wouldn't be in the position I'm in now.
Well, my mom swears she hates dirt bikes. She's like, I wish they were never in my life. I said, you don't understand. Like, the person I am, I wouldn't have been this person. I was kind of a thug. I would have gone sideways real bad. As you can see by my personality, I'm kind of freewheeling. Mix not self-discipline in there, and it could go south really fast. Now with my kids, I told them, hey, do you want to race dirt bikes? Because I know how much joy it gave me, but I also know how much pain it caused and how much it can cause. Right. So it's like, I don't want to force my kids to race, but if they wanted to, I was going to support them. They didn't want to, so I didn't push them into it. How are you going to do with your daughter? Are you going to...
Honestly, I don't want to ride dirt bikes. No way. It's not worth it. Yeah, girls go out there. It's awesome. It's great. But they don't get to that level. It's where they're out there professional, making money, doing it as a career. And I think it's just too dangerous for me to put my daughter out there and have her risk her life for a little bit of fun. I mean, we could find something else that's fun.
What if she absolutely begs you, Dad, you did it. I want to do it.
I don't know. I'm going to try to steer away from it, honestly. If I have a boy one day, I don't know if we really plan on having no more kids, but if we did have a boy, I would definitely say yes. But just being the girl, I don't know. It's a little bit different. We've got her in dance right now, and I want to keep her in sports that are not as dangerous, I guess you'd say. But if she wants to, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You never know, man, because sometimes I think it might be in the blood a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought the same way. I'm like, okay, do I really want my kids doing this? And I just went with the attitude, if they really want to, I will let them, but I will not force them. And my son, I took him out the first day at Mesquite. He's got a KLX 110. He's riding so slow, he can't get hurt over on the little kid track. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to get hurt. I can walk faster than you're riding. I go out, break my leg.
Yeah.
He's like, see, I told you. And that was it for race. He's like, okay, we stuck to BMX and we had a great time. And BMX can get pretty gnarly too. But I mean, I don't want to, for me, I look at the sport and it's gnarly and it's very, very dangerous. But I feel like if you really want to do it and you do it for the right reasons, getting rich is not one of them. That's what I want to ask you. So now you're about to turn pro. Did you know how hard it was to become a successful financial pro?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Everyone thinks everyone's out there making a bunch of money, and they're not.
And you knew that, though.
Oh, yeah.
You knew that there's only like 10 guys on teams that really make a living, and they don't even really make life-changing, some of them.
Yeah.
And you were still cool with it.
I was still cool with it. I was going to try to be one of those 10, and it's what I wanted to do.
Of course, that's how we all feel. We all feel like we're going to be the one.
You never know. As long as you got that dedication, you try. It's very possible.
Well, that's why I say that same attitude that that we have, where we're like, oh, you say no, I'm going to do it anyway. Oh. It can be very successful, but it can screw you sometimes too.
Yeah.
But if the fact that you've been able to refocus it into the pool business, into your regular life, and I see you at all the races, you still love it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I still follow it. I try to watch every weekend, and if I don't watch, I listen. I mean, I got this in my ear all day, every day, and I turn the race on while I'm working and just listen to it. I mean, I still enjoy it, but.
So what advice would you have? Like, everyone has their different directions in this sport. Let's say some kid at Millsaps right now wants to talk to you and say, hey, can you give me some advice? Should I pursue this? Should I not pursue this? If I do, what would you advise a younger kid?
I'd definitely say, pursue it if that's what you're looking to do. I mean, yes, it's dangerous and all, but if this is what you want to do, just do it. I mean, why not? I mean, you can end up in a chair too, but you can't really take that out of your blood, man. Once it's in there and you're starting on trying to go pro, like, you can't just stop. It's hard. I've never seen anyone do it.
No. But the one thing I would say, back me if this is, so I saw you were riding for Red 7, kind of they were supporting you a little bit?
Yeah.
So Red 7 was a local shop. They supported Kyle Partridge and Ronnie Goodwin, a couple of the local kids that were riding Supercross.
Yes.
And Kyle Partridge drove me nuts because he was so talented, but he refused to put any effort. And he went out there and he got his main event check, and that was it. But I'm like, dude, if you're going to make that money, which you could make at any job anywhere, what the hell are you taking those kind of risks for? Either do it right or don't do it. How did it make you feel seeing him out there?
I looked up to Ronnie and Goodwin, Partridge and Goodwin, as I was growing up because they were always the faster guys in Vegas. I always wanted to go pro like them, and I eventually got to the speed to where I can do it, and I think it was a good idea he was out there. I mean, he probably loved it. Obviously he did. I mean,
that's the thing. I don't know if he really loved it. I think that's all he knew. Yeah.
I mean, I knew Kyle just a little bit. When I came back, we started riding, and I seen him at Boulder City quite a bit. He's a great guy, and I wish he could have done better and been up. I mean, he won some races. I mean, he definitely could have, but it's dangerous. I think he got hurt, didn't he?
Yeah, he got hurt a lot too, but he never trained like he should have. He never gave himself the opportunity. I seen him do stuff on a bike that you only would see like Stewart and the top guys be able to do. But then he'd go out in the practice time sessions, throw down one lap, and then cruise the rest because he didn't have any cardio to do more than 1 or 2 laps.
See, I don't know anything about the training he did at all.
It was awful. It was awful. And then I saw Ronnie Goodwin, who also had a lot of talent and worked hard, but he kind of recognized how hard it was to make money and wanted to go a different direction. And I think Ronnie still rides once in a while, but he went your direction. He's a family man.
Yeah, he's a lawyer here in town now.
Oh, he's a lawyer?
Yeah.
Have him take your case.
Different. He does different stuff, I think. It's more of like trust and living wills and stuff like that. Actually, I called him and he helped me out the other day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually don't. If you listen, if it's in your past, leave it in your past. It is what it is. But
yeah.
I think people need to know what a scumbag move it was from Leatt. I mean, they literally wrecked people's lives because they didn't want to take a loss or maybe even bankrupt them if they had taken all those braces back. But they knew there was a problem, and it just makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. I'm sure it makes you mad too. But, I mean, that they knew and still did it.
They suck. I mean, I don't know how they could put that out there. Yes, of course, things are going to hurt people. But if it's hurting someone, take it off the market. Get rid of it. Don't keep trying to get it out there more, It's crazy.
Well, and the fact that the brace changed the next generation to go around the spine tells me they obviously knew.
They knew. Exactly.
They knew 100%.
And the breakaway, it didn't break away. And, they knew it was hurting people, and they tried to find ways around it. And it's when I went back east, my buddy Justin, he wore a donut around his helmet.
Yeah.
And they tried to have him wear one of those braces. And he never wore it. He didn't want to restrict it. And I wish I'd have did the same thing when I was talking to him. Should have put a donut around my helmet and called it good.
Dude, I don't blame you. I wore one for a while because I thought I'm all for safety. But that's the thing. Sometimes you got to double check. And I'm okay. Like, listen, if Leatt comes out with that and they honestly think that's the safest design, and then they find out this happens, that sucks. That sucks, and it's awful. Where I have a serious problem is where they knew and continued to sell them. That's a problem. Okay, so now that I got Brad here, we've covered the topics and the dirtbags of Leatt, and I don't want to beat that too hard, but I also want to make sure people know what a piece of crap company that was, and I don't know exactly who was in charge at that time, but they're garbage. I want to get to some of the good things in this sport. You still follow the sport. I see you at all the races. We talk moto. You know the riders. Now, when this SMX thing first got announced, I thought it was ridiculous. You're calling it playoffs, which I still think that's a stupid name. Super duper. Either way, I love the single, double, triple, and at the end, and it gives guys, so the season used to kind of just go like this. And now it kind of goes like that, but it's got a spike at the end. So it gives guys like Tomac, Webb a chance to come back and start fresh. You know, they're not in a giant points deficit. I mean, a little tiny, but they could still win this thing easily. Yeah. What do you think of this Super Duper?
You know, I think it's pretty cool with the points layout, and then at the end they can make up some of those points and possibly take the title out of it. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and I really like, and I was talking to Plessinger, and I said, wouldn't it be cool to have that plate, if you win this thing, to have that plate all next year and kind of flex on everybody? He's like, purple and yellow. He was disappointed. What do you think of having that? I love that it's on there, and I think it's significant.
I think it's great. I mean, it's different. What did Deacon ran it for a while? I still have
Still
it right
does,
now.
yeah. All year, him and Jet.
Awesome. Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I mean, it shows that you're one of the guys out there. You're number one out there.
The Super Duper champion.
A super duper.
Super Duper champion of the galaxy.
I don't know about super duper, but it's kind of weird name.
Well, it's Super Motocross.
Yeah.
Which I think, how unoriginal is that name when you're coming up with the 3 races at the end? First off, there's a sport called Super Moto, and you're just going to add Super Motocross? Like, what idiots were in a room and they went, hey, Super Motocross? Like, it sounds like a Disney thing or something. Like, come on, man. There's so many different things they could call it, and I just make fun of the name. I love everything else about it. I love the money that they pay the guys. I love that it keeps it going, and I love the single, double, triple. I love the half outdoor, half Supercross. Yeah. Did you ride any Supercross when you were younger?
Just a little bit at the facility I was at, and some of the tracks I went to had the tracks where they would let me ride them, but I didn't get to get out there and race it.
Did you like it better?
I liked it much better.
I know. I love that.
I mean, they had it at Minios, but that's not really a Supercross track. That's just a little.
That's like Sandy
outdoor.
Valley.
It's a small track. Yeah, it's just a little outdoor track that's compacted. It's nothing like Supercross.
Yeah, it's like a pit bike track that they decided to call Supercross.
I mean, it's a fun race, though. I mean, but it's definitely not Supercross. Speaking of arena cross, that was one of my first races. I think it was in Bakersfield, and I had a bike and I didn't really ride at all. And my dad said, "Hey, let's go race this race." We went out and I lined up, and I didn't know anybody. It was my first race. I was brand new on a bike.
Your first race ever, not your first?
Yeah, one of my first races ever. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And I didn't know much. And we were just out there having fun, and we lined up on the gate next to Jeff Lessie and Mike Lessie. And I didn't know them at all. And later on in life, after racing and getting into the industry and stuff, I knew exactly who they were, obviously. And I hole shotted both of them, came around the first corner, went through the rhythm, and then came to the second turn and hit a set of whoops, and my bike stopped. I was little. My dad forgot to turn the gas on.
Oh!
And I stalled going through the whoops, and they got by me, and I ended up, I don't even know what place, but that was one thing when I used to race is I used to hole shot a lot. And when they always said, oh, the Lessies, they're on the line, they're going to get it. My first race, I ended up beating to the first corner. It was awesome. And
you hole shot both the Lessies in your first race.
Yeah.
Dang. That's pretty cool.
It was awesome.
It's got to make you feel good when you think back.
It does, definitely.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I still have all the memories. We still have all the friends we make and the skills. And I do love the sport so much, man. I really do. But I have that kind of love-hate because I see the things that it does. So anything you want to tell your parents?
You know, I'd love to thank them. You know, they sacrificed a lot, both of them. Without them, I couldn't have done what I did. And without them bringing me up, I wouldn't be where I'm at now.
How was it? Was it really hard on them when you got injured?
You know what? It was way harder on them than it was me. Everyone thought it'd be the opposite way around, but they were the ones that were upset, not me.
Well, what's your pool company name and where can people find you?
It's Poseidon Pool Service, and I'm on Google, Facebook, Instagram. Call anytime, text. I'm here local in Vegas, and I started in 2015. So when I got hurt, I was at home and it was driving me nuts. I couldn't just sit. So I had a couple of jobs, and I ended up, my second job was a wheelchair rep, and they eliminated my position because I could not load a power wheelchair in the back of my truck to deliver it, and that wasn't even my job. So I said, you know what, dude, I'm never working for someone again. I'm going to do something on my own. I started the business in 2015 and kind of grew it from there. We've got 6 employees now, about 170 pools weekly. That's all I do is pools. I do pools and hang out with my family.
And I will say, my last house that I had a pool, and somehow he saw the video on there, and he was giving me some crap. There were some stains on it. He's like, dude, you're not doing it right. I'm like, okay, sorry, Brad.
That's got to be right, man.
I know. So I trust that he knows what he's doing. All right, well, I will be checking in with Brad periodically. I know he is very knowledgeable of this sport. And like I said, when I saw him go out there when you were younger, I remember, I think I might have told Aaron, like, holy crap, that kid's good because I saw your technique. I knew that you had cardio. And I'm like, this kid's dedicated enough to go to Millsaps for 2 years. I have 100% believe you would have been one of those top guys. Yeah. And I think maybe someday you'll get to the point where you're like, God, thank God I got to meet my wife, my daughter, my pool business. And, you know, there's sometimes life forces you in a direction you didn't want to go. And it seems awful, but man, I can't tell you how much respect I have for you, dude.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So growing up, I was always like, I'm not getting married. I'm going to race dirt bikes and that's all I'm going to do. Just what I thought. And then I ended up getting hurt, and there was a friend of mine that I went to school with, which was my wife's best friend. And we ended up hanging out a couple times, and I'd say it took about a year, and then we hung out some more, and then we ended up dating, and then I never would have met, well, I never would have met my wife unless I got hurt. And I wouldn't have a kid right now, probably. I'd be racing dirt bikes and having a girlfriend, probably. But I definitely wish I was racing, but I'm totally fine with the way I went, and I have a nice family, a business, and it's doing all right.
Life's a series of trade-offs, one thing for the other. Not that one's higher or lower than the others, and you're very fortunate to have found the love of your life. Not everyone can, man. It's not easy out there, and there's a lot of, I married the wrong one, but yeah, like if you found that, and that's something, dude, that's probably more powerful and probably a bigger accomplishment than actually becoming a top racer.
Yeah.
But awesome. Well, thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, that's good.
Okay, awesome.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Take care.